what we're going to do in this video is set up a mini tutorial which is really super important in order to explain to the player what they need to do when they get into the app. And you'll see this in almost every hyper-casual game. You need a little tutorial to get started with the game. I show you something simple that you can pass on to all the elements that need to be explained. First, I'll explain the control of the cat, how you can move it. I'll go in the canvas, I'll create the tutorial here. I'll do game object, UI, image, and I'll call it tuto _1 _ move. I'll make it bigger, like this, same size as our vignetting effect, in fact. We'll change its anchor to base it on the entire screen, and then you'll choose a color. I'll go for this blue. We'll add transparency on it, so that it doesn't actually hide the game behind here. That will do. We'll add text, game object, UI. I'll do a text from TextMesh Pro here. You can write in your own language, but normally you have to write in English. You'll need to deliver an English version of the project to your editor. So I write touch to move, release to jump. That's it. Concise, simple, clear, clean text. I don't need more than that. It's enough to explain the controls of our game. I'll change the font to the one we imported, Varela, if you remember. In order to stay consistent, we'll use the same font every time. I'll center the text on the screen correctly. I'll increase the font size to 70, that's enough. And I even write everything in capital letters. I prefer it, but it's up to you. I'll anchor my element here at the bottom of the screen, and for its anchor I say it's at the bottom of the screen and stretch it out like this. If you want, you can even totally customize the anchor system by placing it as you want. You may do something like this to define where you want to anchor your elements. I'll drag this text into tuto move so that it becomes a child of the panel, and I'll call it text tuto 1. Here I'll create an image, game object UI image. I'll increase its size a bit, place it here. I'll position it inside of tuto 1 and I call it image tuto 1. We go to a website like Icon Finder. We'll search for an image like this one, for example, might be a good one. I'm looking for an image to help us illustrate how to play our game. Oh, that one is pretty good, but it's not a free one. I'll click on free, so now we have only free pictures. That one could do the trick, not bad. Let's see if we can change the color here. No, need to log in. I'll do it with Photoshop. I'll click on download in PNG. I imported it into Photoshop. I double click on it and I'll do a color overlay. I select white here. Okay. I'll copy the image, do Control N, and I'll put 512. Told you it's good for texture to have something in 512. I mean, not specifically 512 pixels, but multiple of 2. Here I have my image in white. I'll go in File and click Save As. I'll go to the CAD Simulator Base folder. We'll go to Assets, Materials, and I'll rename it in Hand, and I'll save it in PNG format. Save it, OK. Back to Unity, we'll go to the Materials folder. We've got Hand. I'll switch it to Sprite and UI mode, Apply. I'm going a little faster because these are manipulations you already know. I'm replacing the sprite in the image here, and now I have the hand that will allow me to do my tutorial and explain to the player how it works. I'll just lower the opacity a bit to have something transparent. I think it's nicer, but it's up to you again. You can also change the color if you want. Now, we're good. I'll create an animation folder here in my project, which will allow me to store all the animation files. I'm doing this because I'll create an animation for my image. This will allow me to show you how to create a new animation from scratch. I go to Windows, Animation. We've already seen Animator, but this time we'll take Animation. We'll anchor it at the bottom here, which will allow me to visualize my animation timeline. Here, we'll center ourselves in relation to the view so that we can visualize our object. I position the hand somewhere, I select the hand, and I do Create to create an animation. I'll save this animation in the animation folder, and I rename the file to tutor1 and animation. Okay, creates my timeline. I click on the keyframe recorder here to say I want to start my recording, and it will record everything I'm going to do. I click on the hand to position it at an initial location, and you'll notice that it automatically creates keyframes for me here. If you're familiar with software like After Effects, keyframes are like a record of the state of an element at a certain time. Then in the timeline I can zoom out with the wheel and place myself at 1 second, and here I'll place my hand somewhere else, for example. Then I'll place myself at 2 seconds, and I'll place my hand somewhere else. Then I'll place myself at 3 seconds, and I'll place my hand somewhere else. I'll place myself at 4 seconds. I'll place my hand here, and at 5 seconds I'll place my hand roughly where it was, but now, as I want it to be exactly where it was, I select these keyframes, press Ctrl C, place myself here, press Ctrl V. I'll delete the last few keyframes and just get the one that I copied paste. And now we have an animation that can run in a loop. I'm done with this animation. I stop the recording, I click on play, and we can see in real time the animation as the player will also see it. Helps him understand that he just has to touch the screen and move his finger on the screen to make the movement to be able to move the cat. That's it. We created our first tutorial. It's very important to create tutorials. Developers don't always think about it, but it's very important. And if you go through an editor, it will ask you for a tutorial. You need to create a tutorial if you don't have one yet. Now, if I launch the game here, we have our tutorial that appears, and I can play, but we've got a problem. The tutorial stays in the way. Okay, I understood how to play, and so I don't want to see it anymore. So we're going to hide the tutorial. And if you followed in the previous video, we made a game manager script, and I'll go back to this game manager, and in it I'll create a variable public bool game started is equal to false. This is a variable that tells me that if the game has started. by default the game has not started. I'll use the update function, and I write if input dot get mouse button down 0. So if we click with the mouse, then game started here is equal to true. But like this, it will be triggered every time I touch the screen. So I write if you touch the screen and it's different from game started. Different from game started means that game started is equal to false. It's a little shortcut to write game started is equal to false. So it will be triggered only once, like this. This game manager, we can create an array of game objects for it. And I'll call it tuto. And if we touch the screen, at the moment we touch the screen, I'll say that the tuto number 0, that set active false, and this will hide the number, the tuto number 0. Go back here, we will click on our game manager object, which is there. Here we have our list of tutorials. I'll add a tutorial. We'll take the tutorial number 1 in the canvas. That's it. So now our game manager knows the tuto object. I launch the game. I touch the screen, and the moment I touch the screen, the tutorial disappears. So we are good. Okay. That's about what I wanted to show you in this video. Now, what I propose to you is we test our game on a real mobile. Until now, we haven't tested this game on our cell phone. We have to check that everything works well. We'll do Ctrl-Shift-B. We check that we are in Android mode, otherwise you select Android and switch platform. Switch platform here appears when you change platform. We add the cat simulator scene, and normally in the player's settings everything is already set up since we got it from the template we had already prepared. So normally we're good. We'll do build and run. Here you can create a demo.apk. We do save, yes, and then the compilation will start and the game will be launched on my phone. The first compilation is long, but the following are much faster. Now, I show you what it gives directly on my phone. So here I am on my phone. You have my screen, and on the left you have the logs, the Unity logs. Then here I touch my screen, I move. Just by touching my screen, and as soon as I take my finger off the screen, the cat jumps. So everything works well, the controls are fluid, the speed is correct, no bugs, no worries. Here, you have a not too bad beginning of a game which looks okay on the phone. You can feel it, but the controls are really great, and I can hold the phone with one hand, which is mandatory for a hyper-casual game. The editor will ask you that the game can be played with one hand. So yeah, that's really nice. You may see the graphics are a bit better on the compiled version of the game, and as the screen is smaller, we can use very low poly 3D models, and it won't be disturbing when you're on your phone. Yep. Okay. I checked that everything was working well on the final device, an Android phone. And this will close this video, and as usual, we'll meet again in the next video to continue the development of our project.